Hello children, it's nice to see you again. Haven't seen you for quite some time, so I hope you're all doing okay and looking forward to some summery weather. Who knows, we might get some at some point. So we need to do our greeting, don't we? Peace be with you. Hopefully you've said that back to me. So I want to talk to you a little bit about Aldersgate Day or Wesley Day. So the 24th of May is Aldersgate Day or Wesley Day. Now John Wesley is the founder of Methodism and your school is a Methodist school. So I expect you already know lots and lots about John Wesley. Now John Wesley was a vicar. So he was a reverend like me. But of course there were no lady reverends when John Wesley was alive. He lived over 300 years ago. In fact, on May the 24th, 1738, he famously wrote in his journal or his diary the following words. In the evening, I went very unwillingly to a society in Aldersgate Street, where one was reading Luther's preface to the Epistle to the Romans. About 9:15, while he was describing the change which God works in the heart through faith in Christ, I felt my heart strangely warmed. I felt I did trust in Christ alone for salvation, and an assurance was given to me that he had taken away my sins, even mine, and saved me from the law of sin and death. These are really strange words, aren't they? Really strange words. They're not actually written in the way that we would speak to each other today. Definitely not. But this was such a long time ago and people spoke differently. But what John Wesley is saying is that on this evening, all those many years ago, he went to a church meeting, a bit like a Bible study group. And that was happening in a house in Aldersgate Street in the city of London. Now, did you notice that John Wesley said that he went very unwillingly? In other words, he didn't really want to go. I wonder how many times you are faced with things you don't want to do. Or you are asked to go somewhere where you would prefer to actually stay at home. It can be easy, can't it, to dig our heels in, be stubborn, stamp our feet, have a really grumpy face, put our hands on our hips and say, I'm not going there, I'm not doing that. I think we all feel a bit like that at times. I know I do. So John Wesley, he was somewhere he didn't want to be and probably feeling like he was actually wasting his time. Maybe he was even a bit grumpy. I bet you can do some really grumpy faces, can't you? Who's the best at a grumpy face? Why don't you just turn to one another and make some really grumpy faces? Are you doing it now? I wish I could see them. I think we can all do some really grumpy faces, can't we? Okay, better stop the grumpy faces now. Time to get back to what I was talking about. So even though John Wesley was somewhere that he didn't actually really want to be, maybe he was feeling a little bit grumpy, he was also listening. He was listening to someone read from the Bible. Now, that too can be boring, can't it, sometimes? How we read something makes all the difference. We can make it sound really exciting and then we want to listen. Or we can read it in such a way that it can be hard to keep the words in our minds. I bet you've been places where someone's read something to you and you're just hanging on every word because it's so exciting. And you've been other places and someone's read it and it is so boring. But John Wesley was listening. So this was obviously interesting. But at 8:45 on that evening, something strange happened to John Wesley. Something inside, something in his heart, and he was changed somehow. Now, it wasn't heartburn or indigestion, or even worse, it was not a heart attack. It wasn't a feeling of being nervous. You know that feeling when you get nervous and your heart feels like it's going quicker and quicker and quicker? It wasn't that feeling either. Or indeed, it wasn't an exciting feeling. You know that exciting feeling? When everything starts to kind of jitter inside? It wasn't that either. It was an overwhelming feeling of belonging, of being loved, of being special, of being precious, of knowing for sure that he belonged to God. Wow. That must have been quite a feeling, don't you think? That overwhelming feeling right in your heart that you belonged to God. I wonder what we could compare that feeling to. Well, last week I went to Scotland to see my son, and I haven't seen him since last August. That was such a long time not being able to see him. And I went to see him. And the first thing I did, of course, was wrap my arms around him and I gave him the biggest hug ever. And to feel his arms wrapped around me, giving me the biggest hug ever, was just amazing. An amazing feeling. And my heart too felt strangely warmed. Suddenly, everything felt right with the world. I wonder if you can think of times when you have felt like this. Perhaps you have a pet, and snuggling up to your pet makes you feel all warm and snug and safe. Maybe you have a baby brother or a sister, and if you remember back the first time that you held this tiny, tiny bundle, you felt a strange warmth of love in your heart. Perhaps you felt like this when you've done well at school and your teacher says, "Well done." Why not take some time out today to think about those times? Perhaps you could discuss those moments, those special moments when you felt your heart all warm. Perhaps you can discuss them with each other. Talk about it in the playground. Maybe even discuss it in class with your teacher. So hang on to those moments and share them with each other. For John Wesley, that evening on the 24th of May, 1738, that evening changed his life For after that, he felt totally sure of God's love for him. And that gave him confidence. It gave him confidence to carry on being a reverend. It's a wonderful thing to know that we are loved, isn't it? It definitely gives us a warm and fuzzy feeling inside. And to think that John Wesley really didn't even want to go on that evening. Imagine what he would have missed if he hadn't gone. That makes us think. When we dig our heels in and stamp our feet and have those grumpy faces because we really don't want to go somewhere or we really don't want to do something, we could miss out too, couldn't we? John Wesley would have missed it if he hadn't gone. And it was that one evening in John Wesley's life that spurred him on to do all the good he could. To do all the good he could. For when we know we are loved, we want others to know that they are loved too, don't we? And we do that by doing all the good we can. So the next time you feel that warm, fuzzy feeling inside, why not think of John Wesley and the example that he gave to each of us? Because he did go on and do so much good, so much good. And one of the things that he did was to build schools so that children could be educated. And that's an amazing thing, isn't it? So I hope to see you again soon. Take care of yourselves. Be as good as you can. Just time to say goodbye to one another, isn't it? So peace be with you. Bye-bye, everybody.